Hare Krishna. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Astol Terasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om Astol Terasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, dandavat pranams. So now, this is the 5th day of our parikrama. It's the 6th day of Kartik. But the first day was Purnima. And then the next day we went to Kaliyadaha. And on the second parikrama day we went by bus to Nidhivan and Talvan. And on the third parikrama day we went to Imli Tal and Sevakunj. And yesterday, which was the 5th parikrama day, we went to Batral and the Yagya Patnis and Akruragat, Mansarovar, Radha-Raman, Bandiravan, etc. And today we're going locally, just out of the Gopinath Bhavan door, down the parikrama trail a little bit, to Nidhuvan. But I just want to make a correction about yesterday. Yesterday we were describing the different types of forests on the eastern side of the Jamuna. And I actually think I've described them every day. But I wasn't aware that the order I was describing them in was not correct. So I want to correct that today. So the first 3 forests are Bhadravan, then it's Bandiravan, and then it's Bailvan, these 3. When you're standing in Vrindavan and you look out across the Jamuna, you'll see slightly to the left, directly in front of us, is Bailvan. And then after Bailvan comes Lohavan. I had been saying that it was Mahavan, but actually Mahavan is the boundary of Braj and is the furthest forest to the south. So it's Bhadravan, Bandiravan, Bailvan, Lohavan and Mahavan. This is the order. When you're standing in Vishramghat in Mathura, as we described on the very first day, when we went to Durvasa, when you look across the Jamuna there, you see the Durvasa Tila Ashram rising high. That's in Lohavan. And just off to the left is the forest of Mahavan, which makes the boundary between Braj and Greater India. And in, of course, the forest of Mahavan is Radha and Gokul. So we'll be visiting there very shortly to those places. So that's the order. And also we described the forest of Matvan yesterday. So Mansarovar itself lies in the forest of what is called Brihat Vrindavan. This means greater Vrindavan. Mansarovar itself doesn't lie in a specific forest on the other side of the Jamuna. It looks as if it's residing in Bailvan, but Srila Gurudev has explained that it's in Brihat Vrindavan, Greater Vrindavan. It's described that particular forest where Mansarovar is. But the forest of Matvan, which is there, I'm sending a little map today with this audio, and you can look on the map and see quite clearly where is Matvan. But Matvan is a small forest. It's an upavan. There are 3 types of smaller forests. There are upavan, prativan, and adivans. That's besides the 12 principal forests. So altogether there are 48 forests in Vraj-mandala is 48 forests. We visit the 12 principal forests, and it's the 12 principal forests that we normally talk about and hear about, these specific pastimes. But of course all these other smaller forests, the upavans, the prativans, And the Adivans, they also have so many different pastimes within them. But just to simplify things, for the devotees, we generally talk about just the 12 principal forests. So Vana, of course, means forest. Vrindavan, the forest of Vrinda. Or Baal-van, the forest of the Baals, etc. So all these forests are in their specific orders, and it's helpful, as I've described daily, to get somewhat of a picture of where we're going, so we're not confused about our directions and so on. Ultimately, this is our eternal home. So to get to know the geography and will help us feel more at home when we know which is north, south, east and west and so on, how the Jamuna flows and where all the forests lie and so on, then it adds strength and security, in a sense, to our vision. We feel peaceful in traveling around Braj. So today we're not going anywhere by boat or by bus. We're just going to walk out of the gate of Gopinath Bhavan and walk for about a quarter of a kilometer towards Keshigat. And then before we reach Keshigat, we're going to turn to the right and we're going to go in through a small street, and eventually we're going to come what is like the end of Loy Bazaar. If you're familiar with Loy Bazaar, we're going to come to the end of Loy Bazaar through a small street, and that's where Nidhuvan is. Nidhuvan is our first visit today. So Nidhuvan is somewhat like Sevakunj in its potency, and the atmosphere there is somewhat also like Sevakunj. It's even more intimate, in fact, than Sevakunj. Nidhi. This Nidhi means, or Nidhu means washed off completely. It comes from the root word nirvishesh, actually. It means all their decoration, all their ornamentation, their kasturi, their kajal, the kumkum, the sandal, everything has been washed off by the extent of their love play. So this is a very confidential place, and this is where Radha and Krishna would meet, and many times they would stay for the night in this kunj. So therefore, the beautiful pastime of Nishanta Lila is performed many, many times in this sacred kunj. We would go there every year with Srila Gurudev, and there's many, many small trees as we come in through the gate, and of course hundreds of monkeys to contend with. There isn't the same monkey cage that we have now in Sevakunj, so we just walk around hoping and praying for Radharani's mercy not to be disturbed by the monkeys. But Srila Gurudev would encourage us one year to sit under all the trees. So the whole Parikrama party was sitting under the trees, little small trees, just 6-7 feet tall, almost like bushes, but they were trees. And then he would begin relating very beautiful pastimes about Radha and Krishna's Nishanta Lila and other pastimes that I'm going to relate to briefly now. So this Nishanta pastime is the principal pastime, of course, when Vrinda Devi is signaling to the different birds and so on to start their beautiful chorus, their choir, to wake up the divine couple who are very stubbornly wanting to remain asleep. And even the cock begins to crow, and Radharani, she opens her eyes and she curses the cock to go to hell. Then the cock is silent and she thinks, oh, did he go to hell? And then she thinks, anyway, I'm going to stay here with Krishna. And their embrace is locked in, as tight as it is in the 24 hours of the day. This is why this Nishanta Lila is so potent, because their milan, their union, is so intense at this point, and ultimately their separation, their viraha, is going to be also of the most intense. So this is why the devotees love to be awake during this time of Nishanta Lila. In the early morning hours, from about 3:30 through till about 6:30, is when this beautiful, sweet Nishanta Lila pastime takes place. And then Vrinda, she signals to the monkey Kakati, who shouts out loudly, Jyotila's coming, Jyotila is coming. Jyotila also means the dawn, as well as Srimati Radharani's mother-in-law. So immediately Radha and Krishna, they sit up startled, because the last person they want to meet in this place at this time is Jyotila Mataji. And then they're awake, and then the monkey stops, and then almost immediately all the manjaris who are looking through the lattice work, they come in and they begin their beautiful duties of ornamenting Radha and Krishna again, so that they can have the other Sakis, Lalita, Vishaka, Tungavidya, Champagalata, they can come in after they've been dressed. So the manjaris come in and they perform this very intimate seva to Radha and Krishna at that time. And then one morning, when Sri Radha, she wakes up, she has a very shy look on her face. And Krishna is curious, oh, why, my dear Priyaji, why are you looking so shy this morning? And then she relates to Krishna a very beautiful dream. This is called Swapna Vilasa, and this is written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He writes this beautiful pastime. And then Sri Radha, she tells Krishna, she confides in Krishna about her dream. She said, oh, last night I was walking on the bank of a river, but it wasn't the Jamuna. And I saw the beautiful forest, but it wasn't the forest of Vrindavan. And then I heard a wonderful kirtan, but it wasn't a Brijbasha kirtan. It was a different kirtan. And then I saw the most beautiful golden Brahmin boy, and he was singing so beautifully, and tears were streaming from his eyes, and sometimes he was crying out, Krishna, 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 and sometimes he cried, Radha, Radha, Radha. And I was thinking, is that my Krishna? Is that me that he's calling? So she was most bewildered, but in her dream, her heart completely melted in affection and attraction to that beautiful golden Brahmin boy. She felt that she'd given him her heart. So now, in her waking state, sitting with Krishna, she was feeling most embarrassed and feeling unchaste that she had actually given her heart to this unknown boy. So Krishna, he asked Radha to describe all this, which she did. She describes that beautiful dream to Krishna. And then Krishna, he says, oh, my Priyaji, why are you so bewildered? I've shown you so many my different avatars at different times. I've shown you Varaha, I've shown you Ram, I've shown you these different avatars and incarnations. Why are you so bewildered by this one? And Sri Radha, she blushes a little bit and said, well, you haven't shown me this one. And then Krishna says that in this whole world, no one can understand the heart of a heroine or the heart of a woman. And this is true, except in my case, because I manifest with your mood and your complexion in this coming age of Kali. In this coming age of Kali, I will manifest this form of Gauranga. And then the whole world will be attracted by your complexion and your beauty, which I will have taken so that I can taste your moods, so that I can understand your heart completely deeply. Because at the moment, I cannot understand the different moods that you experience by seeing my beauty. Krishna, he wants to appreciate the sweetness that Radha experiences by receiving the speciality of Krishna's love. When Krishna is going cow grazing, the beautiful gopis are peeping through the kunja at Krishna, and they are actually experiencing a higher taste of sweetness than Krishna is experiencing, looking back to them. There's a beautiful verse in Venu Gita, Akshan Vatam Phalam Idam Na Paramam Vidama. And in this verse is describing how the gopis are peeping through the kunjas at Krishna and Balaram on their way to cow grazing. So Krishna, he very much wants to complete his satisfaction of tasting all the rasas. So he wants to taste this Mahabhav that Sri Radha alone experiences, and all the other gopis. All the other gopis also experience Mahabhav, but not to the same intensity as Sri Radha. So then, as Krishna's describing Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the Kaustubha mani that's on Krishna's chest, it begins to sway and it starts to illuminate itself. And Sri Radha, she sees inside the Kaustubha mani the whole dream that she just experienced that night before. And then when she hears Krishna's explanation of his incarnation of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, she becomes very satisfied and very happy. Of course, in this indication, in this incarnation of Krishna, he's giving the highest benediction to the jivas to serve this divine love in the form of Manjari Bhav. This specifically is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Karite Prachan. He's come to give all of us entrance into this Raganuga Bhakti, which previously was not existing in the same accessible way that Mahaprabhu made it so open that the jivas could access this speciality of of service to Sri Radha and Krishna. So this is the objective of the sadhaks, to take up this mood of appreciating the gift of Sachinandan Gaurahari. So we should understand that these pastimes of Nishanta Lila, etc., are very, very high pastimes. They're very high meditation. For the last 5-6 days now, we've been discussing so many different pastimes of Radha and Krishna in the different places of Braj, and we will continue to do so for the next 25 days of the rest of the month of Kartik. And we should appreciate that hearing these Leelas is the ultimate goal of our lives. It's described that the Leela is like the rider on the horse of Tattva. Tattva are the principal truths that we understand with our intelligence. But with the Leelas, we can go there with our hearts and have realization of the beauty and speciality of Radha and Krishna's pastimes, even to the degree where we can serve them. So at the very end of the Rasa Panchadya, the 5 chapters describing the Rasa Leela in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, he speaks one very beautiful verse. Vikriditam brajavadubi itam cha Vishnu shradanvito nushrunyad arta varenyamya bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya karamam hridaroga masav apinoti acharena dira. That by hearing these pastimes and then repeating these pastimes, kirtan, then remembrance, smarna, will come. So this is the process of bhakti: shravanam, hearing, kirtanam, and then smarana. Then we will remember these pastimes. So this is our process: to hear, speak about, and then we will have the opportunity, of course, to remember these pastimes more easily. If we never talk about these pastimes, if we are shy to hear about these pastimes, then how can we ever remember these pastimes? And Srila Gurudev, he has described very beautifully in his lecture, or in his essay at the beginning of the Venugit commentary that he's given to us. He describes that, first of all, the very beautiful verse, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manusyam Deha Ashtitaha Bhajate Tadrishi Krida Ya Shrutva Tatparod Bhavet. That this is, the translation is, in order to bestow mercy upon the devotees, Bhagavan Sri Krishna manifests his human-like form and performs such extraordinary pastimes as the Rasa Lila that anyone who hears about them must become exclusively devoted to him. So never think that we are disqualified to hear these pastimes. We must hear these pastimes to clear the disease of lust in the heart. This is the antidote for material attraction and material mentality, is to hear the very personal pastimes between Radha and Krishna. This will purify our impersonal tendencies and our tendencies to try and find pleasure in this dull material world. So Srila Gurudev, he writes, I'm just going to read one paragraph from that Venu Geet introduction commentary by Srila Gurudev about this verse and about the necessity of not trying to purify this lust by performing yoga or fasting or doing all types of tapasya to try and control our senses. This is not the path. This is the path of yoga. And the ultimate conclusion of that will be recognition of Paramatma in the heart. This is not our path at all. Our path is to try and raise the mood of devotion towards Radha and Krishna. This is our practice. This is the path of Bhakti Devi. So Gurudev writes in this introduction to the Venu Geet, he says the words Hrid Rog Kam. Hrid means heart, Rog means disease, Kam is lust. So to purify this disease of lust, which is spoken about in that verse, Vikriditam Brajavadubiyatam cha Vishnu, I said. So Gurudev writes, the word Hrid Rog Kam indicate the difference between lusty desires of the heart and the Kam in relationship to the Supreme Lord. Kam, which is in relationship to the Supreme Lord, is of the very nature of nectar of prem, whereas the lusty desires of the heart are exactly the opposite. Therefore, these two attitudes are distinct from each other. This is substantiated by use of the words Hridrogam Kam, Hridrog Kam. The word Dhira means pundit, or one who is learned in the scriptures. One who refuses to accept the claim of this verse and thinks, as long as the disease of lust remains in the heart, prem cannot be attained. In other words, I won't even try and access prem because I'm such a lusty fellow. Therefore, I won't even read any of the premi scriptures. I won't even hear about the sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I will just close that off. Gurudev responds to that. Is said to possess an atheistic temperament. And one who is free from such a foolish, nihilistic mentality is known as a pandit, or a sober person. Consequently, only those who have firm faith in the Shastra are known as Dhira. Those who have no faith in the statements of Shastra are atheists and offenders to the holy name. Such persons can never attain prem, because by not hearing about these personal pastimes of Radha and Krishna, we are going to remain in an impersonal state of mind. And in that impersonal consciousness, we're going to seek material pleasure. So it's vital for us to hear about these sweet and sacred, divine, most confidential, at the same time, topics between Radha and Krishna, to purify this disease of lust residing in the heart. So this is very important lesson for us to hear at this place of Nidhuvan, which is so filled with Rasik descriptions and Rasik pastimes. It's when we go there, the whole atmosphere is charged with such splendid sweetness. There's one little temple, and inside you can see a beautiful bed with flowers on it, and it has scents and perfumes and all things that ladies use, nose rings and bangles and etc. It's obviously a very feminine place, And this is the place that Radha and the Sakhis have created for the pleasure pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Also in Nidhuvan is the place of Haridas. This is not the same Haridas in Chaitanya Leela. This is another Haridas. And this Haridas was a tremendous musician. And this Haridas, he's actually from the Nimbaka Sampradaya. And by his bhakti, his devotion, he manifested the beautiful Banka Bihari Murti. The Banka Bihari is by some considered the most famous deity of Krishna in Vrindavan. All the Brijbasis, all the local people, they all visit Banka Bihari Mandir. So this Banka Bihari Murti was manifested by Haridas. And the Akbar, who was the Muslim ruler at that time, the king in Agra, he heard about Haridas's glories and he wanted to take darshan, but his sevak Tansun, who was actually a disciple of Haridas. Tansen was one of the most famous musicians in India, and he was one of the jewels in the court of Akbar. So Akbar, he disguised himself as an ordinary man because, of course, Haridas wouldn't entertain any sort of royalty whatsoever in his ashram. So he came in disguise, and Tansen, he brought a veena with him, and he was playing some beautiful devotional music on his veena, but he was making deliberate mistakes to irritate Haridas, who immediately took the veena off him and played the devotional melody so beautifully that King Akbar, was totally charmed by the mood of devotion that Haridas was exhibiting through his music. And at that time he wanted to bestow any sort of gift on Haridas, but Tansen told him, no, don't do like this. But the king, in the end, Akbar, he gave him a whole bowl of the most beautiful perfume. And Haridas, he looked at this and he just dropped the whole bowl on the ground in front of the Thakurji there. So even when you go today, there's a beautiful fragrance in the air, in that place, in that mandir where we honor Haridas. So Haridas is honored for his devotion to Sri Krishna also at this place. So these are just some thoughts for the sadhaks to consider at this most holy, beautiful place that we visited first this morning. So now we're going to go in kirtan procession, and we're going to walk around the outside wall of Nidhuvan, and we're going to pass the Radha-Raman temple, and we're going to go to the temple of Gokulananda. So Nidhuvan ki jai, Sri Radha Krishna Nishanta Leela ki jai, Swapna Vilasa ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Haridas Thakur ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Oh, one more thing. In this place of Nidhuvan is also a very beautiful kund of Vishaka Devi. Just like Krishna manifested a beautiful kund to quench the thirst of Lalita Devi in Sevakunj, he also manifested a beautiful kund to quench the thirst of his dear beloved Vishaka Devi in Nidhuvan. He manifested this with his flute during the Ras Leela pastimes. There were so many Ras Leela pastimes taking place in this Nidhuvan, so the devotees can really immerse themselves in contemplation of all these pastimes. Gurudev has described that the Ras Leela doesn't just mean the dancing pastimes, it means they're drinking of the honey mead, it means they're playing, gambling together, it means they're bathing together. So many different pastimes are included in these Rasa Krida, these beautiful Rasa Leela pastimes, so we can meditate on these and carry them with us for the rest of our lives. Hopefully we will always have these pastimes there close at hand. So now we're going to the beautiful temple of Radha-Gokulananda. Nidhuvan ki jai, go premanande haribol. Hare Krishna. So now we've reached the very beautiful mandir of Radha-Gokulananda. Radha-Gokulananda, the principal deities of Radha-Gokulananda, were manifested in a place called Krishna Kund and gifted to their dear Sevak, Lokanath Goswami. Lokanath Goswami is the original worshipper or Sevak in this place of Radha-Gokulananda. Lokanath Goswami and Mahaprabhu were both born in the same year. They are the same age. So most of Mahaprabhu's associates were actually a little bit younger than Mahaprabhu. Certainly the Goswamis were. But Lokanath Goswami himself was the same age as Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu, he sent him to Vrindavan early on in his pastimes. Lokanath Goswami doesn't go to Puridam. He goes directly from Navadvip. Previously, Lokanath Goswami, he came from a different place, I think in Bangladesh, what is Bangladesh today. And then he left home at an early age. He was about 20, 21 years old. And he came to Navadvip and he never returned. And of course, he completely sold his heart out at the lotus feet of Sachinandan Gaurahari, Nimai Chaitanya, at that time, Nimai. And Nimai instructed him to go to the forest of Vrindavan and to discover the original deities that Vraja-mandala had installed, because they'd all been covered over, and due to the Muslim invasion, the devotees had hidden them in different places, and they need to be rediscovered so that they could be worshipped in the upcoming age of Kali. So Lokanath Goswami, he went alone to that forest originally, and then later on his dear friend Burgabo Goswami came, and the two of them were residing. So the two of them always have like a contemporary age mood with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were both about the same age as Mahaprabhu. So when he came to Vrindavan, he was wandering in the different places. He came to one place, Krishna Kund. And at that place in Krishna Kund, these beautiful deities, Radha-Gokulananda, they manifested to him. And they immediately demanded to be fed. And Lokanath Goswami was overjoyed because he wanted to fulfill the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also, he wanted to perform that direct seva to Radha and Krishna. So he began worshipping Gokulananda. And then he shifted to this site today, which is the Radha-Gokulananda temple. When we come in the entranceway at Radha-Gokulananda, on the left-hand side is a whole group of beautiful samadhis. And in the center samadhi is Lokanath Goswami. And almost directly in front of Lokanath Goswami is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And then next to him is Narottam Das Thakur. So Narottam Das Thakur was the only disciple of Lokanath Goswami. Lokanath Goswami, he didn't want any disciples. He thought that if he had disciples, then they would honor him with various gifts. Then he would have a problem with what to do with the various gifts, and it would compromise his bhajan totally. So he had no desire whatsoever to acquire any disciples at any time. But somehow or other, and we'll tell the story today, Narottam Das Thakur, this great personality, managed to melt his heart for a period where he was able to get initiation. Today is the disappearance day of Narottam Das Thakur. So today is a very special day, and we're so fortunate to come to this place of Gokulananda in Vrindavan. I think the arrangers of the Parikrama must have known that this was going to be his disappearance day today, so they arranged it deliberately. So we're very fortunate. So Narottam Das, of course, perhaps we know his history, but he was born in a very wealthy family, practically like a king. In those days there were many small kingships, so he was a prince to one king in Bengal. And he had, from his childhood, heard about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but his parents, like Raghunath Das Goswami, were very protective of their only heir and male son, male to the throne, to the inheritance of his father. So they wouldn't allow him to practically go out anywhere alone, so he couldn't escape and go to Puri and visit the Lord of his heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He never had darshan externally of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his life. He was like the second generation after Mahaprabhu. He was carrying the truths of Mahaprabhu into the world in a more profound way. He was unpacking all the truths of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, etc. And he spent his life assisting Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Jiva Goswami in their monumental work of compiling all the Goswami's literatures and spreading them throughout the land of Bharatvash. So at one point, just before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world, he bestowed all his prem to Ganga Devi. He requested Ganga Devi to hold this prem. I don't know in what form that was held, but this is how it's described, that Nityananda and Mahaprabhu together, they bestowed on Ganga Devi tremendous prem with the message to please give this to my sevak, Narottam, at the correct time. So there was a time when Narottam managed to escape his guards, and the first thing he did was go and take bath in Mother Ganga. And as soon as his foot touched Mother Ganga, immediately she rose out in her beautiful, majestic form, and she bestowed this divine mercy of praying that Mahaprabhu had instructed her to give directly to Narottam Das. So his heart was just flooded with that sweetness and speciality. His pure heart was flooded. Narottam, of course, is Vilas Manjari in Sri Radha and Krishna's eternal pastimes. So he was competent to hold this prem. And this prem was bestowed in his heart, and then immediately he took on a completely different complexion and looked completely different, because just after this his parents were frantically searching for him. They knew he'd escaped, and they saw this apparently mad boy rolling in the dust, and they didn't think that was their Narottam. But then some of the Brahmins there, they recognized by his clothes, actually this is Narottam. So they brought him back, and for many days he was intoxicated with that prem he'd received from the Ganga. They thought completely, as they would have thought, that he was possessed by a ghost, and all kinds of extortionists came in trying to exorcist that. Is that how you say it? Exorcise that ghost out of his body, but of course to no avail. But then after some time, the Brahmanas, they began to read Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he became somewhat pacified. But shortly after this, he managed to escape completely by himself, just like Raghunath Das, and he ran continually until he was on his way to Puri. But on his way, he heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already wound up his manifest pastimes. He'd already left this world. So then he decided to go to Navadvip. But then he understood that actually Nityananda Prabhu, he's also left this world. So then he thought, then I'll go to Vrindavan and I'll take darshan of Rupa and Sanatan. But then on the way he also heard that Rupa and Sanatan, out of their separation from Mahaprabhu, they had also left this world. The only person left was Raghunath Das Goswami. So he had darshan of Raghunath Das Goswami. This was the only surviving personality from that era of Mahaprabhu that he had direct darshan with. But it's described that, and of course, and Jiva Goswami. As he came into Vrindavan, he was weeping and weeping in ecstasy to be in Vrindavan, and he was making his way towards the Jamuna, and of course he was very skinny at that time and his clothes had become ragged. And Jiva Goswami had been told by some of his sevaks that a very beautiful, beautiful boy has actually come into the village of Vrindavan and is making his way to the Jamuna. You should go and see him straight away. So Jiva Goswami, he rushed to that place to welcome Narottam. He'd seen in a vision that Narottam was coming. Everyone knew that Narottam was a specially empowered personality. Mahaprabhu recognized before he left this world the speciality of Narottam, and he was bestowing his prem through Mother Ganga to him. So when Narottam was making his way towards the Jamuna, Jiva Goswami came rushing along the sandbank to welcome him. And Jiva Goswami saw in a vision just before Narottam reached the Jamuna that he suddenly saw a beautiful saffron-robed personality come with a kamandalu and give drink to Narottam. And then Narottam was revived by that drink. So Jiva Goswami was realizing this was the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he quickly hastened to Narottam, embraced him, brought him to his ashram, and fed him nicely and so on, and looked after his body. But Narottam, he stayed for a long time with Jiva Goswami in the company also of Srinivasacharya and Shyamananda. So these three personalities were studying carefully under Jiva Goswami. And then Jiva Goswami was only giving them shiksha. Jiva Goswami was not initiating them. And after some time he told Narottam that he should go to Lokanath Goswami and take direct diksha from him, that he was the most potent person to connect with. Narottam was very unhappy. He wanted to stay with Jiva Goswami. He'd sold his heart to Jiva Goswami, but Jiva Goswami directed him towards Lokanath Goswami. So then Narottam went to the ashram of Lokanath Goswami, and Lokanath Goswami questioned him and decided that Narottam was totally unqualified to become his follower. He didn't want any followers at all. So on any excuse, Lokanath Goswami would not welcome anyone desiring to become like his shishyas. So Narottam, he was mortified because as soon as he'd had darshan of Lokanath Goswami, he realized the full potency of that personality was like the embodiment of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, and he felt his heart was bursting with ecstasy just being in his presence. So he very much wanted to take diksha from him. So he was rejected again and again by Lokanath Goswami. So he made a plan that he would come at night and he would very carefully clean the place where Lokanath Goswami had performed his morning ablutions. He would clean all the stool and take beautiful, soft, clean earth and cow dung and sprinkle that place where Lokanath Goswami had performed his ablutions. And after some time, Lokanath Goswami, he became aware that somebody was cleaning all around the ashram, and he didn't know who it was. He tried to inquire, but he couldn't find out who it was. Lokanath Goswami, who practically wouldn't sleep ever in the night. So one night, he decided that he would stay externally conscious and discover who this person was. And then he discovered Narottam and grabbed him. "Why are you doing this?" And Narottam began weeping and saying, "I just want to take your shelter, I just want your mercy." So at that time, Lokanath Goswami's heart melted, and he decided to accept Narottam as his only shishya. And he sent him to the Jamuna for a bath and then told him to come back, and then he imparted those potent Diksha mantras into his heart, and he gave a little kutia next to his own, and he told Narottam to now perform bhajan. And he was teaching Narottam how to take shelter of Nam. This was principally Lokanath Goswami's practice of taking Nam regularly. So Narottam and Lokanath, they were chanting their name, the holy name of the Lord. And then one day, in the heat of summer, boiling summer, scorching summer, a thirsty farmer, he came to beg. There was a well close by, and he came to beg some water. He didn't have a bucket and a rope. So he was asking Lokanath Goswami for some water, but Lokanath Goswami was deeply immersed in his bhajan and totally ignored, didn't hear, wasn't even aware of the farmer's request for water. So then that farmer, he went and requested Narottam. And Narottam, he came out of his meditation, and then he went and carefully got some bucket and rope and gave that farmer some water. And then that farmer went away, and immediately Lokanath Goswami came out of his meditation, and he could see through his vision that Narottam had broken his meditation, just to feed this, to give water to this thirsty farmer. And he was most unhappy. And at that time he told Narottam, you go back to your family now. You are utterly unqualified to do bhajan. You were serving Radha and Krishna in your bhajan, and you gave up that service, and you wanted to serve a materially conscious person instead. That person would have found water sooner or later. You had no need to break your service to the Lord. You were serving them, and you gave up that service to serve a conditioned soul. This is like an aparad, Lokanath Goswami was saying. You're not qualified to do bhajan here with me. You go back to your village, you leave now. Narottam, of course, was mortified, but Narottam had to leave. Lokanath Goswami was totally insistent. So this is a very hard pastime to appreciate. With our materially conditioned consciousnesses, we would think that to give someone some water on a hot day was a good thing to do. But not if you're serving the supreme divine couple. To break that service, to serve the conditioned soul, this is an offense to the divine couple. Nam and Nami are the same. Namna Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. That the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are non-different. If you're taking that name and you get up to do something very mundane, and you neglect that eternal service, then that is an offense to the Lord. So Lokanath, he saw like that and sent Narottam away. He told Narottam, actually at that time, he said, you should go and you should preach to the masses. This is what you should do. You're not qualified for bhajan. You go and preach to everyone. You be their best friend and give them this knowledge. So Narottam, he left, went back to the ashram of Jiva Goswami, and then after some time, we know the story, Narottam, he went to Bengal, and he began initiating so many followers, and his ashram grew and so on, and he was so attractive a personality. In particular, his kirtans were extraordinary. They were a novelty at the time. Narottam would always sing in a mood of lalasamayi, always a mood of great longing. And in his beautiful Pratana prayer book, which is one of his most famous compositions, every prayer practically is lamenting, oh, when will you be merciful to me? When will you come? When will I have the mercy of Rupa Manjari? When will I have the mercy of Radha and Krishna? When will I fan you? Gauranga Bolite. This beautiful bhajan that we sing regularly is when, oh when, will the hair on my body stand on end upon chanting the name of Gauranga? When will my eyes overflow with tears upon chanting Hari Hari? And when will the moon, like Nityananda Prabhu, bestow his mercy upon me? When will my material desires become insignificant? When will my mind, as a result of my renouncing material enjoyment, become purified? When will I behold Sri Vrindavan? When will I develop eagerness for the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, by whose mercy I will be able to understand the love of the divine couple? Let all my hopes and aspirations remain at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Raghunath Das. This is the constant prayer of Narottam Das. So this is Gauranga Bolite Habe, this song we sing so regularly. Also all of Narottam's songs, we sing so many of Narottam's songs, this Radha Krishna Pranama, so many, all this mood of longing When will that day come? When will that day come? This is Lala Samayi. This is the mood of Narottam. So when we're in this beautiful compound of Gokulananda, today in particular, because it's his Tirabhav, we're remembering the speciality of Narottam Das. Narottam Das, one of his shishyas, then eventually Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was linked in this line through Radha-Raman, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he's also part of this family that we see in the Samadhi compound. And then inside the temple, on the altar, when we have darshan there, we see the beautiful Radha-Gokulananda. They are exquisite. They have very pronounced, beautiful, beautiful features. And also we see the shalagram that was gifted by Mahaprabhu to Raghunath Das. That is also on the altar there. We can have darshan of that directly. Just like in Radha Damodar temple, we could have darshan of the Shila that Sanatana Goswami was gifted by Krishna directly. So here we see the Shila that Mahaprabhu used to rub and bathe with the tears of his eyes. So that is on the altar. Also there's a beautiful Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personality, Murti, that was served directly by Narottam. So these personalities are there for us to have darshan today in this very, very sweet temple. This temple is just it's all marble floor, etc., and it's always cool. Even in the summertime, there's a cool breeze there, and it's a particularly attractive place for the devotees to sit and chant. So on this day, when we come, especially on the disappearance day of Narottam, we are glorifying Lokanath Goswami for taking care of Gokulananda and allowing them to come into our presence at this time. So for the devotees, hearing and touching and being in this atmosphere of these holy places can really revitalize our soul's vision towards what is our goal. How can we become more submissive, more surrendered to receive and be qualified to hear the glories of these personalities and to make our spiritual progress. So we're thanking Gurudev so much for bringing us here and for giving us his mercy in describing all these different pastimes. So Radha-Gokulananda ki jai, Narottam Das Thakur ki jai, Lokanath Goswami ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So now we're going to go to the beautiful temple of Radha-Raman. Just before we go, I forgot to mention the names of all the deities in Gokulananda. There is Radha Vinod and there is Radha-Gokulananda. There are two sets of deities. Radha Vinod are the small deities and Radha-Gokulananda are the larger deities. So it's Radha-Gokulananda, the larger deities, that appeared at Radhakund to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Radha Vinod appeared at Krishnakund to Lokanath Goswami. So those are the deities that we've just had darshan in the Radha-Gokulananda Mandir. So now we've come to Radha-Raman Mandir. And Radha-Raman is so exceptional because the beauty of Radha-Raman is extraordinary. Gopal Bhatta Goswami was residing in Vrindavan, serving diligently Sanatana Goswami and also serving Rupa Goswami, but in principle he was serving Sanatana Goswami. He was compiling his literatures. When Sanatana Goswami left this world, it was Gopal Bhatta Goswami who presented to the world the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which had been compiled by Sanatana Goswami, describing all the different functions and festivals, and so much etiquette is there in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Sanatana Goswami is the Sambandha Acharya, describing the initial stage of relationship with Krishna, the material energy, and other jivas. So all of these truths are described in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. We were talking the other day about Mahaprabhu staying in the home of Venkatabhatta when we were describing Venkatabhatta's brother of Prabodhananda Saraswati. And Venkatabhatta's son is Gopal Bhatta, who served Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very diligently during those 4 months of the rainy season. Gopal Bhatta was about 7-8 years old at that time, and he served Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his life and soul. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed so much mercy upon him. It's described in Krishna Lila that Gopal Bhatta Goswami is none other than Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Sri Radha, or sometimes he's referred to as Guna Manjari. So sometimes the Manjaris, they have two names, like Raghunath Das is sometimes called Tulsi Manjari and sometimes Rati Manjari. So this is often the case. So Gopal Bhatta is most commonly understood to be Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Sri Radha. So Gopal Bhatta, he left Sri Rangam as soon, because Mahaprabhu had instructed him to stay there until and serve his parents nicely. But when his parents both left this world, when Gopal Bhatta was in his very early 20s, then he travelled to Vrindavan to take shelter of Raghunath Das and the other Goswamis who were residing there, Jiva Goswami at that time. So, of course, of the 6 Goswamis, Gopal Bhatta and Jiva are practically the youngest of the Goswamis. So they picked up the weight of the inheritance or the specialities that the older Goswamis had left behind in the form of their literatures, and they worked very diligently to create, to publish them. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he also worked with Jiva Goswami to produce his Sandarbhas, and so they were also engaging very much together. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he had some shalagrams that he got when he was visiting the Mandakini River in Nepal at one point, and he wasn't actually wanting the shalagrams, and he bathed in the Mandaki River, and then with his lota, he suddenly looked inside his lota, he saw there were 5 shalagrams, but he wasn't wanting these shalagrams, so he threw them back. And again he took some water from the Mandaki River, and again these shalagrams came, and eventually Gopal Bhatta understood that these shalagrams had come to him to be worshipped, so he brought these shalagrams to Vrindavan, and he was worshipping these shalagrams. And there was one quite large shalagram amongst them. And one day when the Julan Yatra, the Julan festival, the swing festival, was in full swing, then Gopal Bhatta was somewhat lamenting that he couldn't perform extensive shringar, decoration of his shalagram, the way the other Goswamis' temples could perform their beautiful Julan pastimes with so much decoration and festivity and so on. He was seeing the Radha-Govinda Mandir, the Madan Mohan Mandir, Bankavihari, etc. He was seeing these, not Bankavihari, but Radha Damodar. He was seeing these festivals. So then Shalagram reciprocated with him that night after he'd had this deep desire, and he woke in the morning and found to his amazement that his Shalagram had turned into the most beautiful, exquisite form of Tribhanga Krishna playing his flute. And Gopal Bhatta was astonished to see the beauty of this manifestation of Krishna in the form. He'd manifested from the shalagram, because on the back of this form of Radha-Raman that we call today, Sri Radha-Raman Ji, we call today, is the markings of a shalagram. We see, if you're familiar with the shalagram shilas, they have particular markings that have been created they're like snails in the river, and they eat away at the stone and they create chakras and so on. So we can recognize who the different shalagrams are, whether it's Nrsingadev, Korama, Rahar, etc. Experts can recognize the name, the identity of the shalagram shila. So these markings are on the back of the Radha-Raman deity, and the Radha-Raman deity has become one of the most famous deities in all of Vrindavan. In all of Vrindavan, there are 7 particular temples: the Madan Mohan, the Radha Damodar, Radha Govinda, the Banka Bihari, Gokulananda, Radha-Gopinath, and the Radha-Raman. So this makes 7 or 8, I didn't count them. But roughly, they are the main temples of Vrindavan today. And it's described that he's only 12 fingers high, this beautiful deity. And he's so attractive. And it's described that his lotus face looks like Sri Govinda's, and his chest is like Gopinath's, Sri Gopinath's, and his lotus feet are like Sri Madan Mohan's. If you ever looked at the lotus feet of Sri Madan Mohan, they're very large and beautiful. And it's described that by taking darshan of those lotus feet, all the lust in your heart can be purified. So all of these qualities, in other words, of these 3 principal deities are embodied in this one very small deity of Radha-Raman. And then just beside him is a small shalagram which represents Sri Radha, and a crown is always on that shalagram to represent that he's with Sri Radha. So Gopal Bhatta, he lived and stayed in this place, which is right next to Lokanath Goswami, where he was performing his bhajan at Gokulananda. And he worshipped continually this beautiful deity of Radha-Raman. So now we've come into this beautiful temple today, and always there is a wonderful kirtan here. They're very fond of making different sorts of musical arrangements, and they invite different types of musicians to chant beautiful kirtans and sing beautiful bhajans for the pleasure of Radha-Raman. It's a very ancient temple, like the other temples. Very beautiful temple indeed. So just in the courtyard outside the temple is the samadhi of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and we can go there today and have very beautiful darshan of the samadhi which is worshipped very beautifully. There's one old Baba in particular, and he's been there for 60, 70 odd years worshipping. Now he's very old. He doesn't actually worship the deity directly himself, but his eyes are always gleaming beautifully. And whenever you go, whenever Westerners in particular go, he's always very friendly. He doesn't want anything. He just lives in Copins. He has nothing. And now I think he's still alive, but he's really advancing in age. But he's been carrying on that service in a very pure way all these years. So the devotees can take darshan of that Baba. He's there. So we're remembering the beauty of Radha-Raman and the speciality of how he was manifested from the shalagram to his sevak, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he spent so much time with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopal Bhatta Goswami is famous for questioning Mahaprabhu when he was entering the latrine, holding his tongue. And he was, Gopal Bhatta, just a small boy, "Oh, my Lord, why are you holding your tongue?" And Mahaprabhu responded, "Well, I don't want to contaminate the holy name when I go into the latrine. And if I'm chanting, then that might be an offense to the holy name." And Gopal Bhatta said, "But most people, many material people, when they're leaving their bodies, they pass stool, etc. So if passing stool is going to contaminate the holy name, how is the holy name going to give all mercy to everybody all the time? It's beyond any type of boundary." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he listened to those words from a small boy, and he said, "Yes, you are right. You are Gopal Guru. You are the instructing master because you can instruct me." And he was very happy to hear that from this small boy. And he pronounced that the holy name can never ever be contaminated in any form or fashion, in any way. So the holy name is always fully pure. So that's the pastime we hear. Different pastimes. There are many leelas also in these pastimes for us to listen to when we go on parikrama. So this is just a synopsis of these pastimes. Now we're going to go to just around the corner from here, and we're going to go to Radha-Gopinath. And our dear Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tapasvi Maharaj is going to speak today on the glories of Radha-Gopinath. So today we've been to Nidhuvana, we've been to Gokulananda, we've been to Radha-Raman, and we're just going to go to the Radha-Gopinath temple. So Tapasvi Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Tapasvi Maharaj, will now speak. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Today we have been to Gokulananda, Radha-Gokulananda, and had the darshan of Lokanath Goswami's samadhi and also of Narottam Das Thakur's samadhi. And of course, Srila Vishnuvat Chakravarti Thakur's samadhi is also there. And today is Narottam Das Thakur's disappearance day. Then we went to Gopal Bhatta Thakurji, Radha-Raman. And now we have come to Sri Gopinath. Mostly we focus on the personalities and in their what they have taught us and their example in their life. So Sri Gopinath, he was found, this deity Gopinath was found on the bank of the river Jamuna. Gopinath was originally established by Lord Krishna's great-grandson Vraja-mandala. And Gopinath was installed in Vrindavan over 5,000 years ago. And about 500 years ago, Paramananda Bhattacharya discovered the deity near the Jamuna. Madhu Pandit Goswami, who is a disciple of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, was given the instruction to worship this deity by Paramananda Bhattacharya. So Madhu Pandit worshipped Radha-Gopinath. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, it says that Sri Gopinathji, who is an ocean of mercy, forever sports along the enchanting banks of the Jamuna at Vamsivat. His bodily luster steals the mind of whoever sees him. When the soothing sweetness of Gopinathji's charming form enters the heart, it immediately extinguishes the burning fire of material existence. Now, the original deity is in Jaipur, Rajasthan. So this Radha-Gopinath we're seeing now is what is called Pratibhuj. Madhu Pandit Goswami blessed Srinivasacharya with Gopinath's garland before Srinivas, Narottam and Shamananda took the bullock cart of the Goswami's grunts from Vrindavan. Once also, Nityananda Prabhu's wife, Janavayi Thakurani, came to Vrindavan. As she was having darshan of Radha-Gopinath, she thought that the deity of Radhika was too small, and that if Radhika had been a little taller, the couple would look much more beautiful. Janavi Thakurani returned to her residence after beholding the evening ceremony. So that night, in a dream, Sri Gopinath asked Janava to arrange for a taller deity of Radhika. And she also received a similar instruction from Srimati Radhika, and had a deity of Srimati Radhika, made that was more appropriate for the size of Gopinath. So Radharani was slightly smaller, and Now, with Janavi's making a new deity, both of them would be the same size. In Bhakti Mala, there is a description of Janavi Thakurani's disappearance. There she revealed her own deity and established herself in it. And she also instructed the priests to install the deity of her in the chamber of Sri Gopinath. So this was a little unusual. So when the deity arrived at the temple of Gopinath in Vrindavan, the priests were hesitating. Should we really install this deity of Janavi next to Krishna? At that time, Gopinath Ji himself instructed the priests, "Do not hesitate. This is my beloved Ananga Manjari. Place her on my left and Radhika on my right." So when we go there, when we're here, you'll see that on one side is Srimati Radhika, and on the other side is Janavi Ma or Ananga Manjari. So now it is that we see that Janavi stands on Gopinath's left side and Radhika stands on his right side. Shri Radha-Gopinath ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
So thank you very much, Bhaktivedanta Tapasvi Maharaj, for speaking so beautifully about Radha-Gopinath. And now our Parikrama party will return to Gopinath Bhavan for our midday prasadam. Harinam Parikrama, Harinam Bhajan ki jai. Shri Parikrama 2018 ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.